Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Now, I want to open today's session with a question, and that is, have you ever found yourself in any of these situations? One, it is, say, evening time. It's 8 p.m.-ish, you've finished dinner, you're feeling comfortably full, the dishes are done, the kids are in bed, suddenly it's you time, but something in you is wanting. It's wanting maybe something sweet, maybe something salty, maybe something crunchy. Hint, it's usually not wanting broccoli. You know you're not actually hungry in this moment, but you know that your brain is actually pulling you towards the fridge or the pantry for some reason. Your body isn't physically needing anything. Here's another one I'm going to ask you. Maybe you've had a very upsetting or emotional day. Maybe you've had some bad news at work. Maybe you've had a disagreement with your partner or a friend. Maybe a pet just got diagnosed or had to be put down. And suddenly you find yourself driving in the car to get to the store to go and get chocolate. Or maybe you've just ordered a pizza and ice cream on its way before you're even really aware of what you've done. Or here's another one. It's Saturday evening, you had dinner, you're nice and comfortably full and satisfied, and now it's time to settle in and finish the evening with a movie. You know you're not hungry, but out comes the popcorn, because that's what you always do when you watch movies. Or maybe you go and visit your Aunt Mabel. I don't know why I chose Aunt Mabel, Aunt Dot, I don't know, Aunt Betty. And she whips out the biscuits and offers you one. And you feel terrible for saying no because you don't want to offend her because she made them just for you. And they are there after all, and they are delicious after all. And here's another one. You're eating your dinner and it's a brand new recipe. And oh my God, it's so good because hint, hint, you bought one of my 28-day meal plan. Silent plug there, not so silent plug. And you can feel that your belly is full, but you know that your brain wants more. Oh my God, it just tastes so good. I want to keep eating. So your brain justifies cleaning that plate because you always have, because you were told to clean your plate as a child, and because that food tastes so good and we don't waste food around here and there are starving children in Africa after all. All of these experiences point to the same thing. And that is that hunger and that desire to eat is not as simple as it sounds. Today, we are talking about the difference between physical hunger and brain hunger and how to distinguish these apart. Because what I see is a lot of people being driven to eat by their brain and not by their body and their body's cues. So that's what we are talking about today. And if you recognize any of these situations that I just went through, hello, you are actually doing some brain eating here. And the signal that says that I want to eat is not always coming from your body. It is often coming from your brain. This is how most people are overeating, to be honest. Today we're going to talk about the difference between body hunger and brain hunger, what each one of them actually is, and how to tell them apart. And why getting clear on this distinction is actually one of the most important skills that you can develop for lasting weight loss results. And I don't say this lightly because all of my clients who are working with me at the moment are being led by their brain and not their body. And this is where the excess weight comes from. So if you are struggling with your weight, the likelihood is that you have some brain eating here as well. So I really want you to pay attention today, because your body has signals, but your brain has reward pathways, stories, justifications, excuses, beliefs, conditioned patterns. And that's where the overeating comes from. So let's have a look at your body first. And we want to give your body some credit because your body, all of our bodies, our human body, has a remarkably sophisticated system for regulating when we need to eat and when we've had enough. It knows how to help us regulate our energy intake in order to maintain a healthy body weight. And if you look at all other wild creatures on this planet, I'm saying wild creatures because I want to really distinguish between creatures that are being fed by human beings, like farm animals, like pets. Look at all of the wild creatures out there that are eating a normal, natural diet for themselves. They don't calorie count. They don't macro count. They don't know a damn thing about nutrition at all. What do? They follow their body's signals. They know when they're hungry, they eat. They know when they are comfortably satisfied, they stop. And we have those sophisticated systems as well. Your body knows hunger. Your body knows when enough food is enough. Your body knows when fuel is actually needed, and your body knows when you are comfortably satisfied. It is not guessing, it is not random. It is running on a precise set of biological signals that have been well refined over hundreds of thousands of years of human evolution. Now, our main hunger hormone is called ghrelin. And this is primarily produced in the stomach, and it rises gradually as the time passes since your last meal. And as ghrelin builds, you then experience what I call that slow, steady body hunger, that slow, steady pull towards food that your body is sending you. And it's that quiet signal from your body coming up saying, hey, 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 it's almost time to eat. Think of it like that petrol light in the car that comes on to let you know, hey, 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 you got to start thinking about refueling soon, right? If you don't think about it soon, you're going to break down. You're going to be empty. You're not going to be able to go anywhere. Think of hunger that same way as well. That first signal that starts to hit you is that signal that says, hey, hey, hey. It's like a little nudge. And over time, that true body hunger will build gradually. It doesn't arrive as a sudden emergency, just like your car doesn't suddenly run out of petrol. You don't just suddenly conk out on the freeway because, the light didn't come on. That hunger signal in your body is like that light, and it just gradually gets more and more, not urgent, it gets deeper and deeper, or stronger and stronger, the more that your fuel is running out, the more your current fuel is running out, and your body is telling you, hey, you've got to go and eat. It grows over time, and it's usually, of course, accompanied by all the physical sensations located in the body. So some of those physical sensations can be things like that hollow feeling in your stomach. It can also be like low energy. It can be things like difficulty concentrating. I know that when I'm sitting here working sometimes, if I'm working on a project and I'm just fully absorbed in the project, then suddenly my brain will be like I have ADHD, and I'm trying to focus and concentrate on too many things all at once. I've got all these ideas floating around, and I'm like, do this, but that, and that, and that, and that. And then suddenly I'm going, oh my God, stop. Will you stop the noise in there? And I have to stop. And then I realize, my body's hungry. And then I look at the time. Oh, I see. Yeah, it makes sense. It's lunchtime. And so sometimes it is your brain and the difficulty concentrating. Sometimes you might get a slight headache even. Sometimes an actual growl in your stomach as well. And when you eat in response to that signal, when you eat food that actually nourishes your body, that signal resolves. That's when ghrelin drops and your satiety hormone, particularly leptin, that rises in your body. Your body registers that it's actually been fed, and that hunger signal quietens down. It doesn't get louder. And that is the system working exactly as it should. Now, your body also has a fullness signal. And this is where something really important happens that most people do not know about. It takes around 20 minutes for that signal that your stomach is full and satisfied to travel from your gut to your brain. 20 minutes. Now, most people can inhale their meal in 5. Like you wait an hour to cook that meal, right? You're sitting there waiting, and then you're starving by the time you eat it, and you'll wolf it down in 5 minutes. So if you are eating too quickly, and most people in modern life are, we're rushing through our meals, we're rushing through our day, we are eating on the go, eating on the run, eating totally distracted, we can significantly overshoot the actual fullness level before our brain has registered that we've had enough. This is one of the most practical things I teach my clients. Just slow down. Slow down and turn off the distractions. Take an actual break when you eat. Don't try and eat on the run or eat through meetings or eat through work. Actually take a break. This is for you. Your digestion will work so much better if you do this. And this is not just a mindful practice. It's because your brain genuinely needs that time to catch up to your stomach. I teach my clients what I call hara-hachi-bu, which is that Japanese principle of eating to about 80% full. That's that comfortably satisfied, not completely stuffed. And then you stop and wait. And normally after that, the remaining fullness signal ends up going to the brain. Now, I know there are some other influencers out there that talk about eating gigantic portions and eating as much food as you can. Well, I'm just here to say that not all of us can do that. I know that I can't do that. I know that if I do that, I end up putting too much food into my body, and I know that I end up with very, very uncomfortable digestion if I do that as well. And I have found for me, and what my clients find as well, is finding that comfortably full sensation and retraining our brain to a new normal. Training our brain to stop at satisfied. That overly stuffed feeling often comes from periods of restriction earlier in our life. Now, we don't live in a food restriction environment. We are not trying to restrict ourselves here. If we get hungry later, we can still eat later. You don't have to eat till you are so uncomfortably stuffed. It does a job on your digestion, and I don't recommend it. We want to allow our body systems to do their job, which is tell us when we're hungry and tell us when we're satisfied. And when you eat foods that are high in volume, high in fiber, these whole plant foods that are low on the calorie density scale, as we talked about in last week's podcast on calorie density, I can link that in the show notes. This whole system works beautifully. You feel hunger, you eat, you feel comfortably full, you stop. You stay satisfied for long periods of time. You don't have to snack and eat in between. The hunger does not come screaming back an hour later. And this is what is supposed to feel like. And for many women who come and work with me, they realize that they haven't been listening to their body's cues at all. They've been eating on autopilot for years, just obeying diet rules, eating by the clock, eating the same enormous size of plate that their mother fed them when they were a child, stuffing their faces when they're emotional, when they're bored, when they're stressed, when they're lonely. When we start working with this principle, they start to develop a very calm and steady and comfortable relationship with food. And that's the idea, right? We don't have to get obsessed about rules, but we want to develop a healthy relationship with our food. And that is available to all of us when we learn to listen to our body's actual signals and learn to trust that our body knows how to guide us. Okay, so I want to talk about brain hunger now. Hi, Nancy. Thanks for joining. And hi, Lisa. Good to see you. Hey, Janine. Hey, Margaret. Thanks for watching, ladies. All right, so let's talk about brain hunger. What is brain hunger? And why do so many of us struggle to listen to our body? Okay, so the brain has its own systems, and honestly, they are louder. This is where all the chatter is. And it does not always care if your body is actually hungry. But your brain has rules. It has fears, it has habit loops, it has childhood conditioning, it has stories, social programming, urges, justifications, emotional reactions. I could go on and on and on. And for a lot of women, the brain has become so much louder than the body. So I'm going to ask you again, have you eaten because it was time? Because the app said so, because you had 100 spare calories left on MyFitnessPal, because you've been good and you deserved it, because you worked out so you deserved it, because you had a hard day or a hard week and you deserved it, because you didn't want to waste food because everyone else is eating and you didn't want to miss out, because someone offered it to you and you didn't want to say no and offend them, because you were bored, because you're stressed, frustrated, emotional, because the scale wasn't moving and so you thought, stuff it, we may as well just go and eat everything. Can you hear what I'm talking about here? Your brain's relationship with food is primarily a relationship with things like reward, conditioning, stories, beliefs, dopamine, habits. And dopamine is the chemical hit that comes from eating something pleasurable, particularly something sweet, salty, fatty, highly processed. And dopamine is the craving that we get. We don't just get dopamine when we've eaten the food. We get dopamine that starts the habit process. The dopamine is actually the craving, the urge, the desire to go and eat that food. So dopamine is also part of the habit loops that we have, the very conditioning, the familiar pathways, the familiar habits that we have. Here is what happens when in the brain when the urge to eat kicks in. So your reward center gets activated and dopamine is actually released in that anticipation of pleasure. Either it's the anticipation of pleasure or the anticipation of moving from pain to pleasure. It's the anticipation of the change of state. And your brain starts getting very, very convincing, gives a very, very convincing case as to why you need to eat right now. That is that urge, that craving, that desire, that push towards food. It does not feel like a logical argument. It feels like a physical need, like an urgency. It's a pull that is very hard to distinguish from actual genuine hunger, especially if you've spent years eating in response to these brain signals rather than your body's signals. I remember a time when I was coaching a client. My client came up to me and said that she'd had some chips during the week. And my brain loves chips. My brain loves chips and my body doesn't. And right in that moment, my brain, I could hear it out in the back there. Here I am, like trying to focus on my client and what she's saying and coaching her and helping her. And in the background of my mind, my brain is throwing me an urge. Ooh, chips. We haven't had any chips for a long time. Chips would be a nice idea. You could go next door to the supermarket and get a bag of chips. You don't have to eat them all at once. And you've been so good lately, you deserve a little treat. You could just have a handful and put the rest away in the cupboard. And you could stretch them out over the month and then it wouldn't matter so much. Yeah, go on, do that. You can do that. You have been so good lately. You deserve a treat. OMG, that is an urge. And we've got to get really good at listening to these urges. They're not instructions. It's just brain chatter. It is just dopamine. And our brain can generate an urge in response to all sorts of things. Things like stress, cortisol triggers, and rising cortisol triggers an urge, like a search for fast energy, usually preferably from things like sugar, salt, and fat. Boredom eating. This is where the brain is looking for stimulation. And of course, pleasurable food is highly stimulating to the brain. Emotion, things like sadness, loneliness, anxiety, frustration, they all activate that reward-seeking circuitry as well because the brain is actually seeking relief. It's sensing pain in that moment. And if we look at our motivational triad, we are programmed to move away from pain and towards pleasure. And of course, food, especially highly palatable food, becomes that sense of pleasure. Not only does it help us feel like better in a moment, but it actually turns off all the chatter in the brain. The brain stops creating sadness, loneliness, anxiety, and frustration, or whatever other negative emotion we're experiencing. And it goes, for a moment. For a moment, that's the key thing. Habit also, like the brain will generate an urge to eat from habit. If you've always had something sweet after dinner, then your brain will see that cue and generate a craving because it wants that same familiar pathway. Same with things like eating popcorn as you sit down to a movie. If you have always done that, then your brain will want that familiar pathway. If you always start your day with a coffee, your brain will want to do exactly the same thing. So habit circuitry also produces dopamine because your brain wants familiarity. Familiarity equals safety, equals comfort, equals you will stay alive. It creates dopamine from like environmental situations. Seeing food, smelling food, being in a place where you usually eat all the time. that can also create that dopamine trigger. So there's the anticipation of the eating, just because food is there. It's that anticipation of pleasure. So none of these are actually hunger, not true physical hunger, but each one of them can feel like hunger in the moment. And the kicker is this, that the brain's urge signals tend to arrive fast and feel urgent. It's not something that builds gradually like Ghrelin does. It's something that spikes suddenly, and it's very demanding. And it creates that sense of like immediate urgency that can feel overwhelming. The reason it's called an urge is because it feels urgent. Like if you don't react to this urge, something bad might happen. Whereas the body pushes you towards food with a steady biological signal that gradually rises, and the brain pushes you towards food with that sudden, urgent, reward-driven craving. So it's a different signal, different mechanism, and different response required. Your body knows true physical hunger, whereas your brain knows desire. And learning to tell them apart is one of the most powerful things that you can do. Your brain has learned a lot of these habits from the moment you were born as well. Your brain is always learning. It was learning from your parents. This is just the way we do things around here. We eat when we're crying or we feel upset. We clean the plate regardless of whether we're stuffed. We always have a snack at morning tea or afternoon tea or after dinner or when we're watching a movie. We always have popcorn when we go out to the movies. These are very familiar pathways that we need to start to understand, recognize where they're not related to hunger, and we can start breaking them. I want to tell you a story about one of my clients. I interviewed her here inside the group, and also you'll see a replay on my YouTube channel as well. This is Kathy. She had dieted her whole life. Even when she was following whole food plant-based diets like Starch Solution, Pritikin, Maximum Weight Loss, she was totally disconnected from her body. She was following rules. And then she was breaking rules like a rebellious teenager, like she did when she was a child. And she kept losing and regaining the same weight over and over. Like Kathy had been dieting for 66 years. She'd tried 14 different diets over her lifetime. And when we worked together, she realized something massive. She realized that she was overeating all the time and she didn't actually know it. She didn't actually know what true hunger and satisfaction felt like in her body. She was eating large portions and finishing the plate because that's what her Italian mother had taught her to do. That was how she kept her Italian mama happy and told her, like, showed her love. She was always eating past full, simply because that's what happened when she cleaned her plate. Large portions equal, over fullness. So her brain learned that stuffed was normal. She was eating food because it was there, because her brain was justifying it, like it's vegan, it's my favorite, I'm in the area and I might miss out if I don't get it now. She was also doing a bit of comfort eating, like needing a break from the stress of managing 500 clients and 4 fur babies. So food had become that way to get a sense of relief in a long, busy and stressful day. And because she was constantly eating and constantly overstuffing her body, she never actually felt that true sense of hunger. She didn't actually know what true hunger felt like in her body. And she was never actually checking in with her body before she ate. So once she became aware, it changed everything for her. She realized that she was being led by her brain and not her body. And so what she realized is also that she didn't need more strict food rules. She needed core principles and she needed more body awareness. So in our work together, she started noticing where her brain was driving her desire to eat rather than her body. And she worked on breaking that habit. She started waiting for hunger to arrive before eating. And because she could now feel that hunger in her body properly, she knew what it felt like, she was also better able to find that hara hachibu, the 80% comfortably satisfied as well, because she'd never really experienced that. She was always overeating to overstuffed and never feeling hungry. So it's like these signals were just completely off. And she worked on reminding her brain that when it desired food, that it was comfortably full, thank you very much. And she didn't need that treat right now. She never restricted herself from having treat foods either. I'm going to say this. She told herself, I can have that treat as long as I'm hungry. I'm just not hungry right now. And what that also did, this is really, really important, because what most people do is say, I'm never having treat foods again. I've got to stay away from them. I'm not allowed them if I want to lose weight. What I encourage my clients to do is to allow some treats in your life, but eat them if you're hungry, right? Not just because you're trying to reward yourself, or because you've had a hard day, or because you just need some pleasure. Eat them if you're actually hungry. And if you're actually hungry, then you're not necessarily overeating. It's going to do far less damage than if you just eat it because. Kathy also started recognizing when she needed that break in her day. If she was feeling very stressed and overwhelmed, she learned different ways that she could give her body a break. And that excess calories didn't have to be part of it. Kathy has now hit her 50-pound goal. And the beauty is it's not just another, I guess, loss in her life. It's not just another period of time where she's lost the weight and it's going to rebound. She knows this time that the weight has gone for good. She's gone from clinically obese to normal weight. Her doctor is so happy with her. Her doctor is amazing, is also whole food plant-based, and couldn't understand why Kathy couldn't lose weight because she was already whole food plant-based. Kathy came to me saying, I know what to eat. This was the kicker for her, overeating habits. So she's not only technically at normal weight, her doctor wanted her on GLP-1s, thought it was going to be the only way she could lose because she was already eating so healthy. But now she's been able to prove to herself and her doctor that you can lose weight without GLP-1s, and you can do it in a way that is going to last forever. And Kathy said to me that none of those 14 diets that she tried in the 66 years, like none of them, not even starch solution, not even Pritikin, not even maximum weight loss, none of them ever taught her the distinction between body and brain hunger. And none of them had actually taught her a specific way to be able to break that habit of brain eating. No one actually gave her the tools. The diets were all just trying to give her new ways to say no. And this is why the weight kept returning every time she lost it. Because she was only being given half the solution to her problem. And her old brain-led decisions would come back. The justifications, the cravings, the urges, the desire to seek relief within food, clean that plate. They would all come back because she didn't have the tools to be able to break those automatic habits. And that is what you need, because everybody has some habits that they need to break. It's not just about what do I eat to lose my weight, how do I build new habits? It's about how do I break the old conditioning as well. And that's phase 2 of my coaching with my clients. Once we start changing our behavior, all the old conditioning starts to come up. All of the old ways, the old relationship with food, it starts to expose itself. And then we can get to work on breaking those habits as well. So I want to ask you, how many of you actually feel a bit like Kathy at the moment, that your decisions are being driven by your brain's desire to eat rather than your body's need? Whether it's driven by mindless habitual eating, that automatic habit, cleaning the plate, or snacking, or just eating because it's there, habits that you're probably not even aware of, habits that probably developed in childhood as well. Or environment, eating because the food is right there in front of you and now your brain is desiring it because it's going, oh, pleasure, 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 let's do it. Or are you eating from emotion because you might be seeking relief in some way, or seeking relief from feeling in pain, or just seeking pleasure and joy in food instead of seeking these things in healthier ways in your life? So just have a think about that for a moment and ask yourself, are you eating from habit, environment, or emotion? Because studies actually tell us that around 60 to 70% of most people's eating is actually driven by the brain and not by physical hunger. And the brain is driven by habit, environment, and emotion. Okay, and I want to acknowledge something here as well, because I think this is really important. The distinction between body and brain hunger is not easy to make, and it's become significantly harder in this world that we live in now. This world of food abundance, we are surrounded by food all of the freaking time. Food has also been specifically engineered by food scientists, people in white coats, to bypass all of our satiety signals and keep us eating. And that combination of sugar, salt, and fat in ultra-processed food, it really it hijacks that dopamine system in a way that whole natural foods are, simply will never do. These foods are designed to be impossible to stop eating. They're designed to make you addicted. And most people are getting addicted to them. And we also live in this environment now of low-grade stress, and many people in chronic stress as well. And things like stress and cortisol, they actively mimic the feelings of low blood sugar in your body. And it can create that sense of physical urgency. It drives up the reward pathways and that need to seek pleasure, or that need to seek relief from the pain that you're experiencing from the excess cortisol. And that sense of urgency is almost indistinguishable from genuine hunger. And that's why so many people eat more food when they're stressed. A lot of people don't realize that they're actually emotional eating. And it's not always just because, I'm sad, or I'm uncomfortable, or I'm stressed. It's this feeling of low-grade cortisol flooding the system. It's making you feel off, and then food becomes the response to that, because it is the brain's way of trying to seek relief. And it's not because, if you recognize this pattern in yourself, it's not because there's anything wrong with you, or you're weak, or you're undisciplined, or something like that. It's the brain is trying to generate a biological feeling that says, I need safety, and food gives me that safety right now. And add to all of this a lifetime of just mindless habits, eating by the clock, eating in response to emotion, eating out of habit or social obligation. Many women have lost complete touch with what their actual body's hunger signals feel like. Because we've been eating in response to those brain signals for so long, because the brain is so loud that they no longer recognize the difference. There's not a character flaw. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that nobody's given you the full picture. It is just the result of living in this modern world, and a modern world that is specifically designed to override your natural signals. And that is so that someone can profit from you, by the way, right? We know this. This is the pleasure trap. Our subconscious mind will always prefer eating for relief, eating for comfort, eating for pleasure. It will always prefer eating highly processed foods over whole natural foods. It will always want us to eat because we're surrounded by food. But if we are to succeed, we cannot continue to be driven by our unconscious dopamine-seeking habit brain. We must learn to break this connection, recognize when it's there and break it. And do that using our conscious, intelligent thinking. We can do this with specific tools. We need to learn how to change these habits, change how our brain operates so that we can start to normalize our brain in a different way. The good news is that your body's signals are still there. They haven't disappeared, even if you've been ignoring them. They've just been drowned out by the brain and all of its noise. And with a little practice and some simple tools, you can learn to rehear them again and break the connection that you have with brain eating. Alrighty, so I'm going to give you the simple tool that I use with my clients to help them recognize and start to break this conditioning, break these patterns. This is the pause method. And the first thing that we do when we have that desire to eat, what we do is we actually just pause. We stop for a moment. Even creating a space of around 10 seconds. This takes you from that moment of autopilot, reacting, just grabbing food because it's there, the reacting to your emotional states. It just takes you from unconscious behavior, from reactive brain to thinking brain. Now your conscious brain has a moment to step in and assess the situation. I liken it with my clients too. Like when you are in reactive mode, you're in your 5-year-old child mode. Like there's chocolate on the bench, let's get it, right? The adult has walked out of the room for a moment. And if you pause before you actually put that in your mouth, you've got a chance for the adult to come back in the room, and the adult can go, hey, you don't know, we don't, and it can pull it out of your hands, and we don't have chocolate for breakfast, darling. So liken it to that, like our conscious mind is like our adult self, the one that knows better, the one that is looking out for our future self. Our unconscious mind is our reactive child self that is just seeking pleasure and comfort and all the things that are nice. Okay, so I want you to ask yourself some questions in this space. When you are pausing, what am I feeling? Is this true body hunger? Am I feeling it in the body? Am I feeling it in the stomach? Am I feeling the emptiness, the hollowness, the low energy? Or is it brain hunger? Am I feeling urgency? Am I hearing chatter in the brain, the justifications, the urges, the cravings, like the specific craving for a specific type of food? An urgency that doesn't have a clear physical location in the body, it's in the mind. And you can ask yourself also, like, when did I last eat? If it has been around 3 to 4 hours, well then it could be body hunger, okay? It's very plausible. But if it's only been like half an hour, like the likelihood is it's coming from your brain. Your brain wants pleasure, it wants to seek relief, it wants habit, it wants something, but it doesn't need food. Your body doesn't need food. There's also a test I say to my clients, like this is a very practical test when you feel that urge to eat. And I ask, would a carrot suffice right now? If a carrot would suffice, if the answer is yes, you probably are genuinely hungry. True body hunger is not fussy. It wants food, it wants fuel, and healthy food will suffice. But if the answer is no, if your brain would not want a carrot, if you want something specific, something specifically sweet or salty or crunchy in a different way, and that carrot just won't do, well, that's your brain talking. Like if you are sitting there in amongst a party and there's like food everywhere and it's just rubbish and your brain's going, oh, I can guarantee you that if somebody offered you a carrot in that moment and you were comfortably full and you said no to the carrot, I want the chips, that's your brain talking. This is a craving, an urge, a reward signal. It's not that physical biological need. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to eat the carrot and not whatever else it is that you're craving. It is just a tool for identifying which signal you are responding to. Because once you know that, you then have a choice. Even if you do choose the other food and not the carrot, you are doing it consciously. You are doing it with awareness. You know that you are doing it. And in the moment that you're doing it consciously, you stand more of a chance of being able to break that. You're not going to break it necessarily immediately. You won't always get this right. But you now know why you're making that choice. And in future, you can pick yourself up even faster and you can work on breaking it. Okay, so that was the P in pause. The next is A in pause. So A stands for allow. Now, what this means is allowing that uncomfortable pull, that uncomfortable craving, that uncomfortable urge or emotion to simply be there. Now, research on cravings show that if it is an urge and you do not act on it, it will peak at around 20 minutes and then it'll begin to subside. It's like the brain is recognizing, oh, the thing that we want, we're not getting, so we may as well just put this urge away. It comes up, it peaks, and it passes. Yes, it's uncomfortable. And this is not about white knuckling your way through it, by the way. What it means, because white knuckling is like, I want it to go away. It's like fighting with it. I want it to go away. I need it to go away. It's uncomfortable. Why is it there? Right? What it means is allowing it to be there. Just like I was allowing the brain chatter to be there. I was just noticing it. It's like, oh, isn't that interesting? There's my brain having a craving. I'm going to listen to what it says. Wasn't making it a problem that it was there. Sure, it was uncomfortable and I felt the pull to go and eat. But just listening to it and allowing it to be there and recognizing, oh, this is the urge, this is the craving, it changes your response to it. So allowing, it means allowing yourself to feel uncomfortable for a moment without reacting to it. And this is a seriously important part of being able to break the brain's desire and the brain's craving in this moment. If your brain recognizes that you do not react to the craving, it's going to stop giving you cravings. So you allow that uncomfortable pull to be present in your body, whether it's a craving, the urge, the emotion, whatever discomfort that is not hunger. You allow it to be there. And it is the hard part, I'm going to say this, because most people are just reacting to it. Everything in you will want to make that uncomfortable feeling go away. But what we want to do instead is just allow it. Right? Just witness it. We don't fix it, we don't suppress it, we don't escape it. We just let it be there. Right? This is the discomfort that most people never allow themselves to stay in, which is why they never break the habits. In the book Dopamine Nation, they talk about how the more we chase pleasure, the less tolerant we become of discomfort, and the more we chase dopamine to fix that uncomfortable feeling in order to feel normal again. So when you sit with it and you allow yourself to just feel that discomfort, you are literally retraining your brain, and you're retraining it that nothing is going wrong right now. We do not need to react to this discomfort. Everything is okay. We can handle it. It's just an uncomfortable feeling. You are building that ability to feel uncomfortable without reacting to it, which is a power. This is where your power lives when it comes to breaking these habits. It's also what is called exposure therapy in some way. It's where you, instead of avoiding the trigger, you stay with it. You choose differently. And over time, that urge weakens because that pattern is no longer being reinforced as a habit loop in your brain. And the better you can get at feeling uncomfortable without making it a problem and without reacting to it, then the stronger you get internally. And the easier it becomes to step beyond your comfort zone and keep doing things that you know that will take you towards your goal. Most of us don't have a knowledge problem. We have an inability to feel uncomfortable problem. And the moment that you increase your capacity to discomfort by practicing this tool, so much is going to change for you when it comes to your eating behaviors. So when you identify that brain-driven urge, the most powerful thing you can do is pause and allow that uncomfortable urge to be there. Not forever, but just long enough to be able to interrupt that automatic response. Okay, then the U in urge is understand. So if that urge is emotional, if you can identify that you are stressed, you're bored, you're lonely, you're anxious, you're frustrated, just ask yourself the most important question, and that is, what is going on? What am I feeling? Is it an urge? Is it a craving? Is it an emotion? Is it just the desire to act on autopilot? What problem am I trying to solve here? What need am I trying to meet? What am I choosing to believe right now that makes me feel uncomfortable? What is my brain actually telling me? Not what would taste good, but what do I actually need? Like, is it rest, comfort, a break, distraction, connection, a hobby, sleep, stress relief to regulate so my brain isn't overwhelmed? Food can temporarily soothe a lot of these different things, but it cannot meet the need permanently, which is why eating in response to an emotion or an uncomfortable urge always leaves you needing more, because the underlying need has not been addressed. So the question is, what do I actually need? And that starts a very different relationship with your food. The next question, once you have the answer to what do I need, the S is shift your action. Choose a different response to that urge. Not perfect, just different. You can meet the need if you know what it is. You can serve the emotion if you know what it is. You can solve the underlying problem you're avoiding. But the important thing is that you're not eating in response to it. You are actually going to do something else. And that retrains the brain that when I feel this uncomfortable thing, I go and do this other thing. I don't eat in response to it. I go do this thing. I now know what that uncomfortable feeling, or that I know what I'm actually craving in this moment, and I go and serve that craving in a different way. And then the E is to encourage. This is really, really important, because this gives you the ultimate dopamine at the end to start creating a new habit. And this is celebration. Celebration that you were able to feel uncomfortable, understand what was going on, and shift your action. This is where you rewire your brain to a new habit. You close a new habit loop because your brain is now learning something different. And I want you to feel pride that you did this. Celebrate yourself, like high five yourself in the mirror. Like, it's so powerful. And most people forget to do this. They don't do this. They just beat themselves up if they get it wrong. I want to end with something now that I think is really important. So this practice is not about perfection. It's not about getting everything right, getting every eating decision right. It's not about interrogating every single desire to eat and creating a checklist before you're allowed to eat. Please don't do that. I don't want you to go down the route of perfectionism. This is just about awareness, building awareness and starting to notice where your brain is trying to get you to eat versus where your body needs you to eat. And it's helping you to tune in to your body's signals and start to rebuild a relationship with your body's actual signals after perhaps a very long time of not actually listening to them properly. In the beginning, you won't always be able to tell. And the signals can feel genuinely confusing at times. You might pause and still not be actually sure. And that is so okay. It is completely normal. This is what it looks like to rebuild a skill that you haven't used in a while. The goal is not to immediately eat only in response to, that biological signal. The goal is to start bringing awareness to what is driving your eating patterns, because once you can see it clearly, then you can start to make different choices. And Kathy described it beautifully when she said to me, she said that the moment that she started asking, is this my body or my brain, before actually reaching for food, she said it just shifted so much for her. Not because she always had a clear answer, but because that pause itself and actually the act of asking the question was actually helping to interrupt the automatic pattern. And in that interruption, she found a choice that she didn't know she had in that moment. And that's the work. Not perfectionism, just awareness, and then interruption and diversion. You still have a choice. So let me give you the key takeaways from today. Your body has sophisticated biological hunger systems driven by hormones like ghrelin and leptin and your stretch receptors in your gut. And true body hunger is something that builds gradually and is felt physically within the body. Whereas your brain has separate reward-driven systems and habits that generate urges to eat in responses to emotions, habit, environment. And brain hunger arrives fast and it feels urgent and oftentimes very specific. And in this modern world, with all of its processed foods, pleasure everywhere, chronic stress, constant food availability, it has made listening to these signals so much harder. It's become harder to distinguish between physical body hunger and brain hunger. And this isn't a personal failing, it's just a reality of the environment that we live in today. And I want you to, put yourself through the carrot test. If you would eat a carrot, a raw carrot, right now in response to that craving, would it satisfy you? If yes, it's probably genuine hunger. If no, it's probably a brain urge. Urges peak at around 20 minutes and will subside if you do not act on them. The idea is not to white knuckle your way through them. It's just to allow the discomfort to be there and start to understand what you might actually be craving, what you might actually be needing. And pause is your most powerful tool to start understanding that and changing that behavior, shifting your action and starting to create new pathways in your brain to create new habits. And the question under every emotional urge, I want you to ask is, what do I actually need right now? What am I actually craving? And food can soothe, but it can never meet the need. So the goal is not perfection as well. It is awareness, it's noticing and starting to interrupt that automatic pattern and finding the choice that you didn't know you had. Thank you for tuning in. And if this episode landed for you, I want to invite you to try just one thing this week. Before you eat, especially if that urge has come on suddenly, I want you to just pause for a moment and just ask, is this my body or my brain speaking right now? You don't have to have the answer. Just ask the question. That's enough to start breaking the pattern and start building awareness. And if you're ready to do this work properly, with support, with structure, with someone who can help you rebuild your relationship with food from the ground up, then feel free to book a discovery call with me. The link is actually in the show notes. And we'll sit down, we'll have a look at where you are, where you'd like to be, and what is that gap in between? What is the gap that you need to close, and what do we think is stopping you from getting there? No pressure to come and join my coaching. You'll at least walk away with an answer and 3 different things that you can be working on next to close that gap. So if this episode has landed with you, I'd love for you to share this episode with somebody else that you think needs to hear this as well. And I would absolutely love it if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're feeling generous, a 5-star rating actually helps the podcast to be found more and help me get my message out to more people out there who I know need to hear it. All right, team, thank you so much for being here again today. I really, really appreciate you. Go and have a wonderful week. And I am coming back next week with a very special guest. I'm not going to give away who it is yet, but I'm so excited to speak to him that you have to tune in next week as well. Okay, I'll see you then. Bye.